So it sounds like you were already pretty well versed in like the crypto world. One of the things I loved about this movie is just how many like little call outs it had to, like you said, the meme stocks or that whole kind of culture around it. To the moon. There was one scene where the characters met in a parking lot that had both an AMC and a GameStop, and I like audibly gasped. I was like, that's perfect. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. Today I'm talking to Cutter Hodierne, the director of Cold Wallet, which is premiering at South by Southwest on March 8th, 2024. I'm going to talk to him right now, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. I'll spend a lot. Thank you. All right, so thanks so much for joining me. Today I've got Cutter Hodierne, the co-writer and director of Cold Wallet, which is debuting at South by Southwest on March 8th, 2024. It is a thriller that has some really great performances, some really great kind of techno aspects about the crypto craze, and a lot of drama. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. I actually really love this film, so I'm excited to hear more about it. And thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks. Glad to be here. Yeah, I'm glad. It makes me smile that you enjoyed it.
Of course, of course. So, first question, like, how did I guess you co-wrote this. How did you get involved in this idea? How did you kind of develop this script, and what was kind of the nucleus? It said it's based on a true story or a true-ish story. It sounds like was it the FTX craziness that happened? But I'm just curious, like, what was the nucleus of this, and how you got involved?
Sure. Yeah. So I was working with Test Pilot Productions um, to make a film about doxing. And so it kind of originated with Derek McMurtry and I. Um, and a friend of mine named Justin Staple gave me the idea to uh, to make a crypto heist thriller. If you're gonna do doxing, this is the one that you should do. And um, and so I've known Justin forever, and he like I knew him from when he worked at Vice, and he's just like always has a ear to what's next and what's going on, and is a great filmmaker too. And so I then brought on John Hibey, who wrote the screenplay, um, and he and I kind of developed the thing and shaped it, but like John wrote the script and really brought out uh like really shaped the characters and really particularly the villain, Charles Hagel, like was kind of like John's psychotic and fun mind going crazy. And yeah, so yeah, we it sort of was born out of this broad kind of like what would be a film about doxing, and it evolved into this thing that also crossed with one of my interests, which was just this whole meme stock and movement and the whole GameStop and AMC thing that was happening a couple of years ago. I'd been involved in a co-producing a documentary called "This Is Not Financial Advice," um, and we borrowed some inspiration from that film and the characters in that film, and we were just kind of taking a little bit from everywhere. Like there was obviously stories of scams and rug pulls. There are stories like as big as kind of FTX, um, but it was sort of borrowed from a variety of true stories and true inspirations. Um, but the weirder thing was that it was more, as we were in production, it was more like life imitating art. We're literally on set um, when we get this news alert that like three assailants have shown up at Sam Bankman-Fried's parents' house where he's on house arrest, and we're trying to
Oh,
like break in.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
which was like, well, I guess we're making the right movie, but like,
Yeah.
holy shit, this is like kind of weird that this is like literally, happening in real life. And I mean, another bizarre thing like that was one of the whistleblowers in the FTX story, this guy named Ryan Salome, like literally owned a bunch of the restaurants that our crew and cast would frequent in the town that we were shooting in. So like there were these interesting intersections of reality, into our film, but it really just came from an idea that Justin gave me, and then something that John and I developed for a test pilot. Um, And yeah, it was a great uh organic in the sense of these are interests of mine and obsessions of mine that they got to sort of play themselves out in a heist film, which is probably my favorite genre.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm not saying that you have magic powers, but it sounds like maybe you do. Could your next film be about like a YouTuber who maybe does movie reviews and interviews that strikes it rich? Like, just see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And he has like a filmmaker friend, and they both
Yeah.
rich, and they both live in the Bahamas together. Yeah,
And
yeah,
nothing bad happens at all to them. They both
yeah. Yeah,
retire happily.
yeah. We just
Not much of a
drink a
thriller.
lot of, yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like you were already pretty well versed in like the crypto world. One of the things I loved about this movie is just how many like little call outs it had to, like you said, the meme stocks or that whole kind of culture around it. To the moon. There was one scene where the characters met in a parking lot that had both an AMC and a GameStop, and I like audibly gasped. I was like, that's perfect. Like that is where'd you find this place? And like how did this come about? So how much research did you have to do in crypto, or was this just something that you were already kind of interested in?
I was already deep and interested in the world. Um, it was both came from a sort of like desperation during the pandemic, um, and then also a just a fascination with like the chaos that was in that world, and that there was always a kind of gallows humor to things, and that they were propping up these like dying companies, and now suddenly they had new life, um, and so I was deeply involved in that world, but I know so many people who know so much more about crypto that I kind of like don't feel like an expert, because as soon as I start like I'm an expert next to somebody who doesn't know anything, but to some of my friends, I would be like they'd be laughing at the fact that like someone thought of me as as an expert. So I'm somewhere in between Charles Hagel and Billy in the in the knowledge gap, but probably leaning way more towards Billy. But there's a yeah, it's just it's a world that I really came to appreciate and love, and obviously dabble in a little bit myself. And but so there's an honest like attraction to these kind of stories.
Yeah, for sure. And I love how this, felt kind of like the crypto craze too. There were definitely some scenes from like Reddit and YouTube and things like that. How did you kind of make those Reddit scenes? It looked like some of those could be just like other Reddit stories that you just kind of changed a little bit of the text to. It looked like that could have just been a normal discussion on like Wall Street bets or something like that. How like did you have to kind of handcraft those, or how did you kind of make the kind of techno aspects of this film?
Yeah, there was a lot of inspiration from Wall Street Bets. I'm now realizing, God, we should have just done a special thanks for Wall Street Bets. There was a lot sort of borrowed, or like we took inspiration from real comments and real discourse. Um, I'm also buddies with this guy Pro the Doge, who's a like the Dogecoin millionaire, who's a YouTuber who is in This Is Not Financial Advice, which how I got to know him. He makes a cameo in the film. He's kind of the YouTuber explaining what has happened,
Oh,
and
nice. Awesome.
I think like those people are like near and dear to my heart, and I think yeah, I think that's yeah. So it's definitely coming from like a real place.
Yeah, for sure. And the Doge billionaire is an important character, but the person that I really love seeing was Josh Brener in this. How did you get him involved? Did you work with him before, or did you just send him the script and it sounded like a different character that he might have fun playing?
Yeah, it was more like that. I mean, I've been a huge fan of his. And there was something interesting about him playing like a villain. And, I think uh it was both unexpected for Josh, but also totally brewing and there all along. He's super brilliant, and he has just like incredible instincts as an actor, and he's willing to take some chances. And I think, at first I thought, okay, can this guy become something that he becomes a pretty maniacal villain? Um, and and of course he could. And in fact, the more that his villain character kind of came out of like a hyper intelligence and a sort of like condescension to the masses, that became really what made it scary because he sort of embodied capitalism. He's like, capitalism lures you in and promises you everything and then like will turn on you and hunt you down. And so I think um he really understood that and brought so much to it. Um and it was really like a combination of the way John wrote Hagel's character and the way that Josh embodied it, um, that um, made it a special character. But I think it was something that was there all along. And I would say that with all of the cast, with Raul, with Melonie, with Tony, each of them were doing something that was a little outside of their wheelhouse. Melonie and Raul come from a more dramatic background. Um, and were kind of leaning into the sort of dark comedy of it all. And then Tony, who's also sort of from the world of Josh's, sort of groundlings and improv comedy, um, it- they brought something special in how they approach a more dramatic role. And Tony particularly has a like a big empathetic open heart, and that was what this Dom character was doing. But there was also real drama that he was portraying and stepping outside of the norm in that sense. So like it was really exciting that like everybody was sort of, they weren't going so out of it that it didn't make sense. They were doing just a notch, a few degrees different, and that led to something fresh. So I just, with all of them, it felt like a real honor to get to help them on this journey to land land in the right place. So
Yeah, for sure. And I did love how each of their characters felt very different. It was like each had a very kind of different feel, and together when they all melded, it created this kind of like fun nucleus of stuff that happened in this thriller. Like the thriller had a lot of drama, had some dread, but the characters themselves were all very different and fun to kind of interact with.
yeah, yeah.
I also really love the ending. I'm not going to go into it, but I really liked how the film ended. I'm curious, is that how the film always ended? Were there a few iterations, or was it always kind of the way that the story naturally progressed? I thought it felt like a very kind of natural end, but it also one that kind of like bucked a little bit of the tradition that I would expect in a thriller.
Yeah, it's hard for me to completely remember, but it definitely, there were like slight iteration differences in the iteration of the ending, but um, we were we were pretty sure that this was how it was going to end. Um, and I obviously don't want to give away the ending, but like
Mhm.
there's there's like a truth to how it almost had to end this way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it felt like a good kind of natural end. So I know we have limited time. I know you're very busy with South by Southwest. I'm going to switch to, I call it the lightning round. They're just lightweight questions about the film. I want to see how your personal experiences map to things in the movie. You can feel free to skip any of them. I will not be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable.
Okay.
First question is, do you own any crypto?
Yes,
All right.
but not too much, but just enough.
Of course. Good. Of course. Next question. What is the most that you've lost in a day if you want to share? Because I know crypto is very volatile.
Um, an embarrassing amount.
Okay, that is a good answer. Do you have any friends that you have interacted with for a while that you've never met in person, that have only met online?
No,
All right, good.
no.
A face-to-face real life person. Um,
It's like maybe like I don't know if you would count YouTubers in that because there's a lot of YouTubers that I watch a lot of that I've never met, but
yeah,
kind of
yeah, it depends on if you consider them friends or not. So,
yeah, yeah,
have you ever shot a crossbow?
yeah. uh no, I've fired the one in the film uh without without arrows, but so I kind of know the feeling of it. Yeah, but no, I haven't actually shot one.
Which was that was a perfect touch. But that when that came out, I was like, oh, of course, like this actually fits perfectly with the character in the situation. When that crossbow came out, I was like, this is fantastic. And the last question is, have you ever said to the moon?
Oh yeah. Yeah, all the time.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully after that crash that happened, it went to the moon and you recouped all your losses because that's how crypto works, right?
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so the film is coming out at South by Southwest. It's debuting on March 8th, 2024. You are out getting the word out, telling people about it, hopefully that people see it. It is a fantastic film, so definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. But I imagine you probably have some other projects in the works. Is there anything else that you can talk about after people see Cold Wallet? What can they look next from you?
Yeah, I'm making a movie called The Shepherd, which I've been developing for a few years. That is a UFO thriller down in set in Peru in the Andes, and it follows an alpaca herder who has an encounter with UFO. And so I've spent a bunch of time down there developing the idea and kind of workshopping it with the lead actor who's the name Amiel Cayo. And yeah, it's a sort of weirdly a hotbed of like UFO activity in the Andes, and there's a sort of a long tradition even in like Inca culture of like lights in the sky and things like that. And so it's kind of a perfect setting for UFO genre film. And so yeah, I'm that's my next one.
Awesome. Keeping on the like strange internet conspiracy train. First it's the meme stocks and the financial industry. Now it's gonna be UFOs. I can't wait for the cryptid film that follows, but definitely check out all of those. But first, check out Cold Wallet. It's debuting at South by Southwest on March 8th, 2024. This is Cutter Hodierne, the co-writer and director. Thank you so much for joining me.
All right, thank you.
That was Cutter Hodierne, the director of Cold Wallet, which is premiering at South by Southwest on March 8th, 2024. It is a fun thriller with some really great drama, a good cast, and definitely a knowledge of the crypto craze that is fun to see. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.